Ladies and gentlemen, as we're waiting for maybe a few more people to come in, I did upload a brief study guide to you week 18 module on Canvas. So feel free to go on there and check it out. And then you also want to have your graphic organizer out so that we're able to finish up the notes today and kind of move on. All right, it appears we have 21. So we're gonna get going just so we won't waste any time. And then I'll look at the review guide with you on at the end of class. And then if you have any questions, we can talk about it tomorrow. For those of you that are here, just a reminder also then, I did send out who's presenting tomorrow. Make sure you share that with me and then make it available for me to view so that we can work efficiently tomorrow to get everything in. It's going to be a challenge. All right.
I have a question, Mr. Burnett.
Yes, sir.
For the current events, do we just submit our paragraph or our
Submit your slides and then your paper.
We submit the slides in the paper, okay.
Yeah. All right. So as promised here, I told you we would talk about England and King Henry VIII. So I'm going to jump into it right away without a warm up today. So here's how it goes. King Henry and the Pope. King Henry was the King of England, and the Pope viewed England as the apple of his eye, the prized possession of the Pope, because the Magna Carta said that the Catholic Church and the Pope was over the King of England. That's how the relationship was. English king was subservient to the Pope. Well, Henry VIII changed that. He wanted a male heir. And so he was actually betrothed or married to his dead brother's widow. All right. Basically, Catherine of Aragon was the daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella, who were the first two people to unite Spain, the Kingdom of Spain. And so he had to marry her, and they weren't sure if he had actually consummated the marriage or not. So the Pope said, yes, that's fine. And so Henry was a younger brother. Henry became the king. And then Henry was not super happy about having to have to marry a Spanish woman who didn't speak English and did not produce him a boy. He needed a boy to be the next king. And so he asked the Pope for a divorce. Okay? And the Pope said no, because the Pope was not going to upset Spain, who at that point had just sailed to the Americas and was bringing back all this gold, filthy amounts of gold from the Americas, and probably the strongest European kingdom at that point. The Pope's not going to go, he's not going to let that happen. So what happens next? Henry VIII goes to Parliament and asks for the divorce. The Parliament grants the divorce. And so then Henry VIII takes it one step further and declares on a very famous letter, the Act of Supremacy, which meant that he was now the supreme leader of England and of the English church. Okay, and so in response to that, He closes all of the monasteries and takes all of the church lands in England, and he keeps the money or grants land and gives the money to anybody who helped him get this divorce, basically his buddies. All right. Then he goes on to marry 5 more women, which is quite a bit. It's a little bit scandalous at that time. So here's what I've got for you. I've got a little video. Some of you may have seen it before. It's catchy though, and I enjoy watching it every year about 5 to 6 times. And we're going to watch a little video about him and his wives, okay? And it's a little cheesy, this video here, per se, but it is somewhat accurate. So that being said, I think it's worth it. Here it is. All right.
Hello there. Do you recognize this song? That's right, it's Greensleeves, and it is perhaps the best known song composed for the lute. Some have said this song was composed by King Henry VIII, you know, the English king with all the wives. Despite this widely held belief, the facts are that Greensleeves did not even reach England until well after King Henry's death. But there is one song that all historians and musicologists agree was written by the notorious king. The best known song of all time, a song so great that it overshadows all songs to this day. This song by King Henry goes something like this.
Well, I am King Henry. Well, I am King Henry, King Henry the Eighth, and I'm king of all England. And you're not. Well, I married my dead brother's widow. I married his widow, Catherine, oh, Catherine of Oregon. But she wasn't no fun now. She wasn't no fun now. No, 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 no fun, no, no fun now. So I decided to divorce her. Decided to divorce her, yeah, yeah, yeah. But the church said I shouldn't. The silly pope said I couldn't. But I am King Henry. King Henry the Eighth, King Henry the Eighth, and I'm king of all England. And the pope is not. So I married another. I married another, my Boleyn, my lovely, lovely, and Boleyn. But she wasn't much better. She wasn't much better than the first. In fact, she was a little worse. So I cut her head off. I cut her head off with a sword or an axe. I don't remember, only took one whack. Here we go now. I'm King Henry, 'cause I'm King Henry. Everybody, I'm King Henry. Yeah, I'm King Henry. And you're not. So I married another. I married my favorite rival, Jane Seymour, oh, Jane Seymour, oh, Jane Seymour. But she dies in childbirth. She dies in childbirth. I called Dr. Quinn, but she said, now Henry will just can't win. So I married another. I married Anne Clevey, but she was so ugly and needy. No way that she could please me. So I just went and divorced her. I just went and divorced her, yeah, yeah, yeah. Went and divorced her, yeah, 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 yeah. 'Cause I am King Henry. Oh, I am King Henry, King Henry the Eighth, and I'm king of all England. And you're not. So I'll marry 2 more now. I'll marry 2 more now. Number 5 is young and free. She did make my heart so gay. But this Catherine was a bit naughty. She really liked to party. But she failed to invite me, and this made me angry. So I have to kill her. I have to kill her like I did with my hand, just because she despised my fan. So I married my last wife. I married my last wife, yeah, yeah, yeah. This one will outlive me. She'll still be around when I'm buried 6 feet under the ground. And no worms crawl in and out, and play pinochle on my spout. Well, I was King Henry. King Henry the Eighth, King Henry the Eighth. I was brothers with.
All right, so briefly, we're gonna take a look at this. All right, so this is not this is real life. Like this is the actual story. Whoops. No, stop. Go back. Not doing what I said. There we go. All right, so Catherine of Aragon, his old brother's wife, yeah, no heir. One daughter named Mary. She would go on to rule. Anne Boleyn, her lady in waiting, which was kind of like her maid, much younger. She was blamed of having extramarital affairs. She only had one daughter also, which was probably the bigger problem. Her daughter was Elizabeth. We'll talk about her in a second. Jane Seymour was his best friend's wife. And so he had his best friend go off to war, where he then wooed her and had him killed, and he married Jane Seymour. Jane Seymour died while having his only son named Edward. Anne of Cleves was Prussian, or from the Holy Roman Empire, a German state. And a court painter. The parliament had a court painter named Lucas Cranach, who was a real famous Renaissance artist, paint a picture of her to make her look much more attractive than she actually was. She shows up in London, and Henry VIII is so embarrassed at how ugly she is that he sends her to live in the castle the rest of his life and does not have sex with her. Then he married Catherine Howard, who was Anne Boleyn's maid. Okay, this is a convoluted mess. This could be like the Real Housewives of Hollywood or whatever that dumb show used to be. Okay, Catherine Howard also had extramarital affairs because King Henry at this point was a very overweight drunk. Okay, then he married a very, very religious woman who was very basic, and she outlived him, and that is the story of King Henry VIII. So let's take us back to the actual notes here. I'm sure you've heard that story before. It seemed like last period, middle school kids knew it. So, all right. His only son to rule was Edward VI. He ruled when the king died at the age of 9, and he died when he was 18. He was a sickly little boy. And so it was actually a regency, which means a group of nobles who ruled for him. And that turned England Protestant. Okay, so he would continue on the path to creating the Anglican Church. Now the issue then became when he died, his oldest sister took over. She was Spanish. When her mother and the King Henry got divorced, she went and lived in Spain with her mom. So she comes back to England. She's Catholic. She's Spanish, and she goes in and she murders all of the people that were responsible for allowing the king to split away from the Catholic Church and allow her divorce to happen. And that's why you've heard of the name Bloody Mary before. It's a popular alcoholic beverage that some adults drink. But Bloody Mary gets her name from the thousands of people that she had executed who turned away from the Catholic Church. She married Philip II of Spain, who was actually her relative. And this would start a long line of inbreeding in what's called the Habsburg family. And if you look it up online, you can look up what's called a Habsburg face. They all have a really long jawline. And it's a genetic trait you get when you inbred people over and over again. She would die of, I think, ovarian cancer, which means that she does not have any children. Side note, Philip II, the Philippines are named after him because he was the son of the king and queen, and they wanted to name a colony after him. All right, so the only child to really effectively rule then was Elizabeth I, and she was the child of Anne Boleyn, his second wife. And she would form what's known as the Anglican Church, which is about identical to the Catholic Church. They just had a different prayer book that was all in English called the Common Book of Prayer. They weren't very religiously tolerant, but they were Protestants, not Catholics. Philip II got upset that she did this and she would not marry him. He thought that she would marry him right away. She's known as the Great Virgin Queen because she never married. I think she ruled for something like 37 years. And so he sent his entire navy in the year 1588 in what's called the Spanish Armada to try to invade England. And the navy, most of the navy got washed up into the rocks in the English Channel because it was so the storm came through. And so England would replace Spain as having the strongest navy in the world. She would attempt to create the first colony for England, which would be in the New World, which was North America. We'll talk about that later. And the name of her rule is called the Elizabethan Age, because this is when the Renaissance was at its peak in England. And she was during her reign, William Shakespeare, Sir Thomas More wrote some of the more famous playwrights and books that we have to this day. Okay, everybody cool with that? She dies childless, obviously, because she was the Virgin Queen, and the Stuart family would have to come over from Scotland, and then that would change a lot of more stuff in England would get chaotic after that. All right, so the Catholics don't just sit back and go, oh yeah, poke a bunch of holes in us and we'll take it. No, they meet for a period of 18 years in Trent, which was in France. And off and on, they met to try to come up with addressing all the holes that Martin Luther and other reformers poked in their theology. And so they abolished indulgences. They said, yeah, we don't need these. And they said, yes, we have to agree to educate the priests so they can actually read the Bible, and we're not going to practice what's called simony anymore, allowing the church to just give away positions because people pay for them. Everything else, though, is reaffirmed. So 7 sacraments, the belief in the Pope, the Latin church service, all that was going to stay the same. Okay, so that's why Catholicism in the United States and in Spain and in Mexico and Argentina is the same. Okay, the index. This was a list of forbidden books. And so if you were caught with one of these books that they created, you would be excommunicated and you would be put to death. And so this created a even larger period of intolerance where basically, again, if you were a Protestant living in a Catholic area or a Catholic living in a Protestant area, it was not going to be good for you. They also then created a very famous society, Ignatius of Loyola created what's known as the Society for Jesus, which is shortened up today, and they're called the Jesuits. Some of you may have heard of Brebeuf Jesuit Preparatory School or something like that. I don't think it's his exact words. But the Jesuits were supposed to be super missionaries spreading Christianity, and they had an academic of being, or a tradition of being academically and religiously superior to all other Catholics. And so some of you may have heard of schools like the University of Dayton, University of Xavier University. Maybe you've heard of Marquette University, Detroit Mercy, St. Louis University, Gonzaga University, Creighton. All of these schools are Jesuit colleges that were created by the Jesuits when they came to the Americas to set up colleges and to continue to emphasize learning. So this was the big change for the Catholics. Now, the effects. This caused about 100+ years of different civil wars on and off. One of the more famous ones is called the 30 Years' War, where every single European country got involved. It caused widespread persecution and growth of intolerance. So you've heard of witch hunts before, maybe, but this is also known as the Inquisition, where they basically went in and accused people of being false believers or followers of a different kind of religion, and then torture tactics became very popular. This also created many different kinds of Christianity. I'll show you that in a second. And then lastly, Christendom, which was Europe being one huge Christian kingdom that the Pope ruled over, was gone, finally. And you could now be a Christian many, many different ways, and it really just mattered where you lived. And it wasn't one big thing that the Pope controlled. And this would lead to a lot of these kingdoms turning into what are all actually nations today. All right, let me show you one more cool picture here. So on this little chart graph thing, whatever you want to call it, line thing, here's Martin Luther in his Post 95 Theses, which creates Protestantism. Okay, here's the Lutheran, you see the Lutheran church that he created. Then you see the churches that came out of Calvinism, like the Baptist Church, Presbyterian Church, the Anglican Church, or the Church of England. You'll see that's what came from that was like the Methodists, Episcopalian, United Church of Christ. Maybe you've heard of some of these. Then you also had later on like Latter-day Saints, so the Mormons were created, Christian Science. And then you see Catholicism is never split again. And the Eastern Orthodox, the Greek church that's in Russia and Greece today and Eastern Europe, they have not split either. And then the confusing part is all of these religions on the right have split a bunch of times too. So now you've got a bunch of different kinds or ways of being a Christian. And again, that's why 1517 posting of the 95 Theses was a big deal. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop that share here, and I want to do a couple things here. First off, I would like to just kind of go over the final review guide, which is on Canvas. It looks like this. So the first 25 questions of your exam are going to be new questions over East Asia during the Middle Ages, African kingdoms of the Sub-Saharan, the Renaissance, and the Reformation. Okay. So Ghana, Mali, Songhai, Renaissance, Reformation, and the Mongols, and then the Chinese inventions. Really, that's what we haven't. That's the new stuff. That's why I'm not allowing people who have A's to skip the final, because this is new stuff that you have not been tested over. That's 25 questions. The next 25 questions will all be review questions that you've already seen before. I call them recycled questions, and I'll play a Kahoot, mixing in a lot of, a bunch of these questions, but I put the themes down here of what you want to have an idea of for the second 25. Okay. So what I would do tomorrow is just go through these, or tonight. And then if you have any questions tomorrow, ask me. So, all right, spread of Islam. Yeah, it spread quickly after Muhammad died. It spread all the way to the edge of Europe, and it spread up into modern day Turkey, and all the way over to India. Okay. The Prophet Muhammad, he was born in 570, died in 632, got the revelations from the angel Gabriel, and his sayings were recorded in the Quran, and he's the prophet of Islam. There you go. Black Plague, 1347 to 1353, I think. But 1/3 of Europe was killed off, spread from China all the way to Europe because of the Mongols. Yeah, does that make sense for everyone? Remember, the depth isn't that deep because it's going to be a multiple choice question. So I think you should be fine on it. Does anybody have any other questions about this? I don't want you to panic. I think you're going to find that you remember a lot more than you realized. And you also, it's open note, which means you have time to look stuff up. Okay, the other thing then, that I just wanted to remind you of, I'm still a little bit annoyed at the missing assignments. I don't like putting zeros in the grade book. Zero is the worst thing possible. So, if you look at my modules right here, the 95 thesis assignment, only 28 people have done that. I already did one of these with you in class. Get that discussion post done. It was supposed to be done yesterday. Okay. And then, or it was just be done by 8 a.m. today. The other one then is the intro for this week. I only see, I had 49. Yeah, I only have 49 turned in. It means about 35 people, 37 people still need to turn that in as well. Okay. I'm going to leave you now with about 15 to 18 minutes. I want you to go over those terms to see what you know about them and maybe highlight ones that you need to ask me about tomorrow. If you're presenting your current event tomorrow, make sure you're ready to go immediately. Share it with me on Google. Just put my email address or my name in there, or send it to me as a Canvas message. Make sure you're ready to present. We're not going to have a lot of extra time. So I need everybody who has already presented to come to be a good audience. And then we'll spend any extra time we have prepping for the final exam. That is going to be Monday for you. All right. If you have a question, stay on. If not, you're free to leave. Get your work done and turned in, please. Anybody have any questions?
Yes. Where is when the thing to submit our summary, is that under modules or assignments?
No, you're just going to share it with me directly. I messed up. I don't have a thing to do it on.
So all I do is share with you my summary and my slide presentation, and that's it, no submission.
Share with me. Yes, exactly.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Bye.
What is
And
the
it's-
final day for assignments due?
Excuse me, Austin.
What's the
It's-
final day for? Oh,
Monday.
okay.
And it's due by 11:59 tonight, right?
Correct. Anybody else? All right. You guys have a great afternoon, a great rest of your day.